Jack, one of the things I found exciting was that one of the companies that you've spun off is a company that teaches the great game of business concepts and principles. What are some ways that you do that? How do you teach those principles?
Well, let me tell you how this got started in the very first place, is that somebody wrote an article in Inc. magazine about some company that was kind of unique that opened up their books. Doubleday then came in and thought it would make a very interesting story. And we wrote a book in 1982 called The Great Game of Business. And the book was primarily explaining the things that we have been doing since 1983 and the things that have worked. But at the essence of the book was the whole idea of sharing financial information with associates. The book was successful, not from the standpoint of introducing rocket science to anybody, but it was almost as if there was a pent-up vindication that a lot of people believed that it was okay to do. And now they got some fool like me that comes in and writes the book and says, look, not is it okay to do, but it really, really works very, very well, and it's worked for us. And you know, these are street players that are actually playing it. This is not done in a classroom or an academic environment, okay? This is truly played out day to day. That vindication, and there was a lot of people, second generation businesses, third generation businesses, okay, that were taught one way of doing it. People that came from the industrial society that had no access to information, and all of a sudden someone says, this is okay to do, and they go, oh man, I knew it was okay to do, right? And so then they started calling us up and they said, could we come in and take a look at this? And so we said, okay, fine. So then we were just running a little huddle in a really little room, and then people would be coming in, and then all of a sudden we were getting companies like Patagonia, we were getting companies like 3M, we were getting companies like Xerox coming in, and we're in this really little office, okay? And finally our associates came to us and said, look, could we get our huddle back? You know, this is kind of getting out of control. And what was really kind of funny too is like people were coming into town saying, can you pick me up at the airport and everything? We said, okay, look, why don't we standardize this, okay? Typical business mind, right? Why don't we just do a 2-day seminar and allow people to come in, they can lift up the hood of the car, they can see if the engine is there. Let's create the kind of environment they can talk to the people. I can talk to anybody they want to talk to. They can find out whether they want this or they don't want this thing, whether it's real. Can you get people with GEDs that can really understand financial statements? What we wanted to do was to give people the real experience, and they could take it or leave it. We weren't going to tell them what aisles they could go down to. If they wanted to talk to anybody, they would. We would go through the basic principles. We would go through the routines. We'd go through the pattern. Okay, we'd tell them. We'd give them our templates. Okay, in terms of where to do it. We give them our financial statements and the fact that they wanted to see it. We just give them everything they wanted to do. So we started a process of a 2-day seminar. And that thing has been going on for like 15, 16 years. Still have it, still have great companies come in. And then all of a sudden we started sitting there saying, look, you know, things are kind of tight. Would you mind coming and putting the presentation on in Tulsa, or would you like to come in San Diego? And so we then began to spin out, just very similar to like how we did every other business, right? Then we spun it out. We started to put in regional meetings in terms of people. We created a speakers bureau as a result of it. And then people began to want more tools, okay? They wanted category of terms. So we began to write books, okay, in terms of like how do you break this down, how do you simplify. Then they wanted to understand mini games, so then we had to write books on mini games. So we have a whole library of explanations in depth, you know, and we'd be then attracted a community. And all of a sudden we decided that people wanted to have a conference. And so we have an annual conference, and everybody's more than willing to speak. Everyone's willing to share their stories. And so this thing has evolved into something that we never had any expectations. And we do everything we possibly can to share the experiences. We would be more thrilled if we could create a society that was economically illiterate, and we think there's a benefit in this thing for everybody, and we're more than willing to give back because we think this is something that has significant value and can change people's lives and is definitely a game changer.